power of railwayism, where tension ends and excitement begins, enriching lives through selfless service. And as we are rolling on to a new episode, today we are talking about the culture of courage. Franklin D. Roosevelt once said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." For fear has always been a potent human emotion. Whether in a society or a cooperation, fear can spread like wildfire and sabotage the brightest minds. Winston Churchill once said that courage is the first of all virtues because it is the only one that guarantees all others. So here are some of the examples of situations that can require workplace courage. Implementing disciplinary action against an underperforming staffer, confronting your boss who engages in unprofessional behavior, deciding to alter business practices when you believe change is required, leading efforts to promote diversity, inclusion, and gender equality, expressing your opinion when you know it won't be popular, filing an HR harassment complaint against another employee, admitting both to yourself and to your team that you have made a mistake. But what is courage at work? In its simplest form, it is not the absence of fear, but the ability to manage despite having fear. It is being brave and confident enough to do what you believe is right. To develop the culture of courage, experts suggest 4 key skills. 1 is to create trust by making people safe. This can be done by speaking truthfully, doing what's right, and not manipulating people for personal gain. 2, build authentic relationships. This may require to embrace one's vulnerability, even when it's uncomfortable. Courage and bravery cannot be had without vulnerability. 3, inspire people. By living your values, for this will instill values into specific behaviors. 4th, learn to rise. By destroying fear with facts and lead from knowledge versus incorrect story. And as Churchill mentioned again, courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen. And one poet puts it very beautifully, and he says, "Courage is what makes us. Courage is what divides us. Courage is what stops us. Courage creates news. Courage demands more. Courage creates blame. Courage brings shame. Courage shows in school. Courage determines the cool. Courage divides the weak. Courage pours it out like a leak. Courage puts us on a knee. Courage makes us free. Courage makes us flee. Courage helps us flee." So let's go and see what people have to say about how to build a culture of courage. And let's see, who do we have next? And she's none other than Malika. Good afternoon, Malika.
Good afternoon.
Tell us, how does one build culture of courage at work?
So from a diversity and inclusion perspective, I would say that staff need to make sure that they feel comfortable expressing themselves, but it's also equally important for managers to make sure that they feel comfortable and that they are trained in making sure that they can look after their diverse workforce and their diverse teams, and that any issue that may arise, they're able to act upon it and make sure that their staff feel valued and appreciated at work. From that, staff will be able to come forward and express their views, their opinions and their experiences, and ultimately feel valued and appreciated.
Why is it so important?
It's important because staff at work need to make sure that they can bring their best selves to work. They need to make sure that they're having a good time and that they can be innovative, productive, and have a good well-being at work.
What message would you give to the world?
I would say be who you are, always be kind, make sure that you're there for people and you're able to stand up to injustices and help make a change.
Malika, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let's see what Mary has to say about it. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Sanjay.
Tell us, how can one build a culture of courage at work?
Culture of courage can be built by allowing people to be who they are. Give them the freedom to express themselves. You don't have to agree with them, but give them the freedom and space to be who they want to be.
Why is it so important?
It's important because it increases knowledge. It helps us understand how other people are thinking, and it makes the workspace a free space where everybody can exist and feel that they are fairly treated. They feel that they're equal and included in whatever they do.
What message would you give to the world, Mary?
Let us encourage the ability for people to speak their minds and have the courage to face situations without being criticized.
Mary, as always, a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
And let's see what Paul has to say about it. Good afternoon, Paul.
Hi, Sanjay.
Tell us, how can one build a culture of courage?
Well, I think courage is all about having an education, having the right tools at your disposal, having been in that situation, knowing what to do and what to say, and feeling comfortable in the position you're in to say if something's wrong or if something's right and celebrate the good things. So I'd say if you not have the same opportunity as someone else, then you might not have as much courage. If you don't have the same education as other people, you might not have as much courage. So it's just making it in the workplace, making sure you're pointing out the good things, but you're also celebrating the good things, but then you're questioning things. What are the problems? What are the errors? Where can things improve? So and you need courage to do that. So it's make sure speaking out and saying that, looking after everyone and making sure everyone is treated the same.
Why is it so important?
Because we all deserve to have courage. Courage is a really it's a strong, passionate thing. It's a fantastic word. Everyone wants to say they've got courage. So giving people all the tools they need to be courageous, that's important.
What message would you give to the world?
Educate people. Tell them if things are wrong or if things are good. Celebrate good. Tell them, try and improve, and be courageous.
Paul, that was amazing. Thank you. see, who do we have next? And he's none other than Ashley. Good morning, Ashley.
Morning, you alright?
Tell us, how can we build a culture of courage at work?
I think by speaking up and not be frightened to speak up when you think things are wrong. It's important. We've got some things at our work where we've got some forums that people are allowed to do that, and having that freedom to do that, and not being pushed down if people don't necessarily agree with those thoughts. We should all have the freedom to be able to speak our mind within reason. Obviously not being harassing or anything like that. But I think it's important to build that courage in order to move forward, and in order to build relationships and improve our standards.
So why is it so important?
It's important because I think that people need to be strong enough to be able to speak out of things that they don't understand, or that they think is wrong, or there's a better way of doing something. And only by speaking out and talking to each other can we then further that progress. And there may be things that are fundamentally people feel against, and they should be able to speak out that freely without having any compromise to what they're saying.
What message would you give to the world?
So just be confident speaking out, and it's important to do so because if you don't, people can get bullied, people can be put down, and also certain people's rights can be removed if that happens. And I think that it's important to talk about your own feelings and talk about your own experiences to inform others, and that way we can build a better people with more courage, and to be able to stand up for things that are wrong without feeling that they're going to get persecuted for it.
Ashley, that was brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
And let's see, who do we have next? And he's none other than Marcus. Good morning, Marcus.
Morning, Sanjay.
Tell us, why is it so important to have a culture of courage at work?
It's important that you stand up for what you think's right at work. It's a right to say what you think's wrong. Yeah. To say, look, hold up my hands. I'm not happy with this.
Why is it so important?
It's important so everybody gets on well together. You have to be true to yourself at work. Yeah. There's company values and this, that, and the other. But yes, you have to get your religious beliefs, your courage into the company as well.
What message would you give to the world, Marcus?
Yeah. Be true to yourself. Yeah. Lots of different religions, races, this, that, and the other. Yet they all have to be true to themselves, because that will make the world so great.
Marcus, as always, a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay.
And let's see what Tom has to say about it. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Sanjay.
Tell us, how can one build a culture of courage at work?
Yeah, so to build courage at work, you have to be able to speak out when you see things that are going wrong. I mean, sometimes that can be your own behaviour, but often it's when you see behaviour and attitudes at work, and it doesn't have to be your colleagues. It can be, in our industry, it can be passengers as well. So, for example, we at Fenchurch Street here, we get passengers, I would say regularly, who don't behave in an acceptable way, and it can be a little bit intimidating when they're doing that. But for example, if there's a passenger riding a bike on the platform, that's a big no-no, because they're putting their self in danger and potentially other people in danger. So you can shout to them, you can get their attention, to get them off of that bike. Because at the end of the day, if you don't say something and they plough into somebody while they're riding on the platform, or they fall off their bike and they potentially fall onto the track, and you haven't said anything, then you're not being courageous, you're being a bit cowardly. And as a part of your duty as a railway employee, you can challenge people, and you should challenge people. So in that, certain scenarios where it's obvious that you should do something, and it does take courage to do that. And courage, when I say courage, I mean in the way that you do that action, because you can't be timid. You have to be quite forthright about your behaviour.
What message would you give to everyone?
Everybody can be courageous at work. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to save someone's life. You just have to say something, and sometimes your actions speak louder than words. So that's all you have to do. You have to be courageous in your actions, not necessarily in your words, but your words do matter as well.
Tom, as always, a pleasure. Thank you very much.
No problem.